Seriously, okay. Wow.
I don't think the game's over.
That voice that you just heard was one very elated Reggie Miller, legend and Hall of Famer, former Indiana Pacers great, current NBA on TNT analyst, and he was celebrating something very special. But we'll get to that in a second. Welcome into Triple Zeros, the anti-hot take sports show. I am your host, Josh Buckhalter. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Buck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, website, clockersports.com, email address, clockersports@gmail.com. And of course, you can always follow the show at 30spod on Facebook and Twitter. That's at 30spod on Facebook and Twitter. Again, before we get into that stuff, because there's a very celebration going on in the NBA right about now, we're going to kick off things with some NFL action because we got some conversation going on in there, some discourse, and some things happening. We got to get to it. So, the Thursday night football game is currently going on, but it's really a snooze fest. And listen, I'm going to tell you like this. It's really, really disappointing to me, mostly because I had money on it. But the Denver Broncos are losing 14-17 right now to the Cleveland Browns. You might say, hey, wait a second now. The Cleveland Browns are a good team. There's no shame in that. They don't have to be feeling bad about that. Well, the Cleveland Browns are missing Baker Mayfield, their starting quarterback. They're missing Nick Chubb, their starting running back, who's a great runner. And they're missing Kareem Hunt, their backup running back, who, in all honesty, might be a better all-around back than Nick Chubb is. They just got Odell Beckham back tonight from injury, and they got Jarvis Landry back, I believe, the week before. Denver, meanwhile, is going through their own little thing where they don't even know if they want to keep their quarterback, Kyle Fuller, who they paid $9 million for this offseason. There's a lot going on, but the game itself has been so boring, and that's, again, I'm not saying that it hasn't been had its moments, but with NBA action opposite it, it's been hard to keep locked in on this particular contest. Now, I will say they can't all be winners, right? The encouraging story is about the running back, Deontay, what's his name? Johnson. Oh my goodness, I can't remember his first name. He is having a really good game right now, and instead of both Chubb and of Hunt. The thing about it though is I don't know whether to be more impressed by the Browns' effort or disappointed in Denver. I won't say high, but I definitely thought that Denver could do some things this season. D'Ernest Johnson, that's why I would have never guessed D'Ernest. Never. Anyway, he's got 22 carries, 146 yards, and a touchdown right now as the Broncos will fall 14-17 to the Cleveland Browns. Case Keenum filled in this game 21-33, 199. Wow, let me try that again, huh? Case Keenum filled in for Mayfield in this game, 21 of 33, 199 yards, and a touchdown. The Broncos just couldn't do it. They mustered up a total of 38 rushing yards on 12 carries between Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. Gordon had 8 carries for 18 yards. Yuck. Williams, 4 carries for 20 yards. Teddy Bridgewater, 23 of 33, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. That Cleveland defense did its thing, man. It was a snoozer. Vic Fangio's probably going to be on the hot seat after this because I'm not sure how you can go away feeling any type of way other than supremely disappointed and let down after your team goes on the road. Again, it's on the road. It's in Cleveland. But again, against a team that doesn't have its starting quarterback or top 2 rushers. Not a good look. Especially after the week that they just had when they got thumped. So we know that that's not going to be something that some film that the Broncos players are going to want to review. Especially Kyle Fuller, who has been benched in recent weeks because of his play. It's just a weird turn of events there because they had such a promising offseason that you just thought that there were going to be some good things happening. Promising past 2 seasons, really. But I think it goes back to, and I know you're going to laugh because I'm a big Teddy Bridgewater fan, but I think this goes back to Elway not having the solution for a quarterback other than having Peyton Manning fall in his lap. And as much as I love Bridgewater, I would never argue that he's a guy who's going to elevate the level of any team. He can bring it to its potential. He can bring it to its potential. Let me put it that way. Yeah, he can bring it to its potential, but he's not going to take it another step above that. That's not happening. So without the elite level defense, and the Broncos lost Von Miller in this game, by the way, to a knee injury, I believe, and we'll see how long he's going to be out with that. There's just no way to sustain that. You can't survive that. You can't. They've failed with Brock Osweiler, Trevor Siemian, what's the kid's name now? Drew Lock. You know, this is a pattern here. Something that we've seen a while. And honestly, if it wasn't for Peyton Manning, we'd probably be talking about John Elway, former Broncos executive. Maybe not. He might be a made man. He probably is a made man in that organization. But this is not a good look when you have a team that's got those kind of expectations and is repeatedly being a letdown in this fashion. So I think that's something to keep an eye on going forward. Fangio's probably not out yet, but his seat's definitely not as cool as it was to start the year. I mean, that's probably the easiest way to put it, but it's true. Cam Newton reportedly drawing interest from the Seattle Seahawks. We talked about last week how he said that he was going to be vaccinated. I'm just having a rough go of it to start this, aren't I? Well, Seattle head coach Pete Carroll said that they would be interested in him and any other quarterback that could help. The problem with that is they never reached out to Cam Newton, and even if they did, they ended up going with Jacob Eason who went to University of Washington as their backup quarterback as they go with Geno Smith in the absence of one Russell Wilson. Now, there's two sides to this because on the one hand, it makes a lot of sense for them to not go for Cam when they're going to roll with Geno. I'm not sure that's the best idea, but it makes sense in their mind because you got a guy already who knows the playbook, and to get Cam up to speed and ready to go, by that time, Russ will be back. Unless there's going to be some more length to that absence, but this kind of indicates that they think he's on the right timeline. They said that he's already bending his finger at more degrees. He was at 90 degrees at like 2 days after surgery, and most people are at like 45 at that point or something along those lines there. He's ahead of the schedule in that regard. This, though, is kind of interesting for Seattle because if you recall, they had the famous tryout for Colin Kaepernick. Well, come to find out, that workout really wasn't. They didn't have him throw. He didn't even get into warm-ups. So it was really just lip service. And the thing that concerns me here is that this is another case of that. Because it's really easy to come out and say, yeah, man, we're kicking the tires for Cam. You know what I'm saying? We need all the help that we can get. Knowing the discourse that's been around him and how people kind of feel like he might have gotten done a little dirty in New England, especially seeing how, not that Mac Jones has necessarily struggled, but how there have been some opportunities that he hasn't necessarily capitalized upon because he is a rookie and is still learning. That being the case, I don't think that Seattle's right for Cam anyway. I think Miami would work. I think you could get him. Honestly, if the Bears wind up trading one of their backups, and they're not going to do that because of the same kind of thought process that I just gave you there, and we know that they're slow to move. They're slower than glaciers to move on anything. There's no reason for them to move out one of them for him. But, Cam Newton would make a far better mentor for Justin Fields than Andy Dalton or Nick Foles. I don't care how much they supposedly know this. They clearly don't know it enough, or they know it enough to know that it doesn't work. But in the right system, with the right head coach, Cam Newton would be the backup. And honestly, that would have been the case from the jump because they would have had the foresight to see that Andy Dalton's not going to take you anywhere. Now, you could say that, Cam's not taking you anywhere either. But if your plan is to go up and get a rookie quarterback, or you want to wait to see what happens, because I think if they could have waited, There was no rush to get this guy. You let him happen. You let it happen, then you roll with Foles, and you go bad if you don't get the quarterback. I'm just telling you, this. If we don't get what we want, we'll just patch it along. Mentality is how you stay mediocre. So, to put it all back in a bow, Cam would have been a much better backup for Fields than Dalton, but he's not. So, just worry that Seattle, Pete Carroll, and those guys up there are paying a lot of lip service to things to kind of, I'm not sure the reason. I don't want to put any reasoning behind it, but it is interesting. One more note about that Browns thing. I know I'm jumping back, but I got to put this in there. Baker Mayfield recently revealed that not only does he have the torn labrum, but he also suffered a fractured shoulder that's going to have to heal. This injury diagnosis, which was not necessarily good, but it wasn't as bad as initially it seemed when he was on the ground writhing in pain after that awkward fall. He's now going to be out for a little bit more time, I would imagine, to let that heal up as well. Just a tough blow, but apparently the Browns are rolling as they literally rumbled over the Broncos tonight. 17-14 in an old school game that I'm sure made a lot of older heads really, really happy. Are there worries in Kansas City and with the Chargers? The Kansas City Chiefs have they whooped on the Washington football team. But you wonder, is there some sort of ceiling? Are they capped in their ability to take on certain teams in the league? They lost to the Ravens by 1 point. They lost to the Chargers by less than a touchdown. They whooped on the Eagles by 12. The Bills beat them by 18. And then they went out there and they thumped Washington. So what are they? Are they a good team? Are they the great team? I don't think they're the great team that we saw win the Super Bowl. But I don't think that they're as dire of a situation as everybody thinks they are. I think what they do need, they are a team that has to win a specific kind of way. They need the lead. They need to be able to get chunk plays. And they need to be able to unleash their pass rushers, their pass rush, whatever it is. They need to be able to manufacture. They need to only worry about you passing. For them, and maybe it's a Steve Spagnuolo issue, maybe it's just a personnel issue. I would imagine it's the former more than the latter because they've had opportunities to shuffle that around. They got some good players on that side of the ball. But when they have to get, that imbalance, they have a hard time adjusting and they get gashed. Good teams are going to figure out how to get you off balance. That's why you see that. So I think we can see a repeat of something like last year where they struggle to go up against the top teams simply because they have to win a specific type of way, and that way is predicated on them being able to get chunk plays, get out to an early lead, unleash their pass rush, quote-unquote pass rush, and not worry about your run game. If you can get out to that early first, and then you're playing pass rush because you know what they want to do, you can take advantage of some of the lackadaisical play by Patrick Mahomes sometimes. Those no looks have come back to haunt him a couple times this season. So I'm not worried yet for Kansas City, and there's not a blueprint out because you got to have the personnel to run it, and you still got to execute. So there's no blueprint per se because I think a blueprint is something that can be repeated over and over and over. That's what that means. There's a plan of attack, but there's not necessarily a set methodology to go about it. Now, what I will say for the Chargers is that there was a study done by 538. Matt Moore. Was it Matt Moore? That might be wrong. I think that's wrong. But 538 has a study out. I know that's where it came from. Talking about the differences between Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert and how they have such similar numbers, but while Lamar is great on first and second down, Justin Herbert has really thrived on third down. You might say, that's great. They're both really great. But as 538 explains, it's actually better to be Lamar Jackson in that you're aggressive and better on the early first two downs because it's a better predictor of future success than having to battle back every time on third down, no matter how heroic it may be. We've praised Justin Herbert in recent weeks for his ability to overcome third downs. Well, you have to overcome third downs because you're put in third downs because you couldn't be successful on first and second. So, long story short, Herbert has been great. But there is something to be said for not having that success on those early downs that I think the Chargers might have to address. And the difference between them and the Chiefs is I think the Chargers can win without having to have a lead. But they're a lot more prone to – they're not more prone to mistakes, but they're more prone to – it seems like they're more prone to things happening out of their control than the Chiefs are. Missed field goals, injuries, things of that nature. The Chiefs just seem to kind of have built it this way, and I've told people this in recent weeks. It's very similar to what we saw with Andy Reid in Philly in that without the success, you kind of see those same traits that we see magnified with Matt Nagy's lackluster offense. But you see a very rigid offensive system that doesn't allow for much variance, and the players that are in it are kind of typecast in that system. They don't really do other things. That's not to take away from their ability. That's just saying, again, to knot this one in the bow, they have to win a certain way. And right now, teams are letting them do that. And that goes for both of these squads, per se. I have, again, more faith. It's weird. I have more faith in the or in the Chargers, rather, because they've beaten the Browns. They've beaten a Raiders team that we now know might not be that good. They, again, beat the Chiefs. They lost to the Cowboys by 3. They lost to the Ravens. That one is going to haunt them because there's a team that had actually put the blueprint out on Lamar Jackson. and they get dumped on 34-6, right? In a game again where they made Justin Herbert struggle. He struggled because they knew that he couldn't do it. He wasn't as effective on first and second, so they got to him on third down. Just one of those things where we're not panicking yet, but there's clearly something to this that I think they and the Chiefs are going to need to focus on going forward. Tom Brady trolled the Chicago Bears too. Listen, I'm not going to play the audio. We all saw Aaron Rodgers run into the end zone and tell the fan that he owns you. He effing owns you. Whatever, fam. He's not wrong. He's been kicking the Bears' ass for damn near 2 decades. But Tom Brady latched onto this as he gets ready to host the Bears down in Tampa this week. And he said that he congratulated him. He recently found out that Aaron Rodgers is a shareholder in the Bears. He's a shareholder of the Jets. Yeah, whatever, dog. What down is it, Tom? What down is it? Huh? Is it just not 4th down, Tom? Listen, in all seriousness, I wrote about this for Last Word on Pro Football. Brady's going to be having that on his mind. Last year's game where the Bears won, and he infamously forgot what down it was. I can't say that's going to happen again this year. The Bears also were lucky to have him without Chris Godwin, no Antonio Brown on the team, and Michael Evans was hobbled. Well, AB might still be hurt, but there's a chance that they get Gronk back, even though that's still touch and go. But Chris Brown, wow. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are there, and Brady not forgetting what down it is. And clearly he remembers what happened because there was no reason for that troll. Like, it just didn't have to happen. Didn't have to happen. Hurts my soul. I don't appreciate it. I'm seeking legal action right now as we speak. Lawyers are out there working like elves in the cobbler factory. Anyway, yeah, listen, it's going to be ugly for the Bears if they can't muster up some more offense, man. Check out that article for Last Word on Pro Football. But I talked about one of the things that the Bears would try to do would be to disrupt Tom Brady like they did last year. However, while they're tied for the league lead in sacks, they're really towards the bottom in pressure rate. And as we heard from Brandon Staley, as everybody was gushing over the last couple of weeks, pressure rate's a much better indicator of future success than sacks. And it's almost like the Bears have built this defense when you look at Eddie Jackson, when you look at Khalil Mack before this year, Robert Quinn before this year. They were paying guys for sacks and interceptions, takeaways, big splash plays. Well, those things naturally come with a lot of variance. And so when you're basing it off of that, this is what you got. This year seems to be one of their favorable years. We'll see how long it'll last, though, because as I also wrote, the offense is among the least amount of plays and yards. They're dead last in yards and points and stuff like that. They're in the bottom. I won't say dead last. Like, I remember which one is which. Check out the article. It's a lot of information and there are a lot of numbers, a lot of stuff that's going to really open your eyes, especially when you start to examine why Justin Fields hasn't been as successful as we think he could be, and some of the things that the coaching staff hasn't done to make that work for him, such as running more RPO stuff and more play actions. He's not had the amount of pass attempts that you would expect. He hasn't had a lot of passing volume, period. But he definitely hasn't had the amount of volume in those certain type of plays that you would expect for a young passer when you're trying to help speed up his processing. Because he's had some times where he's looked robotic trying to read the entire field. He's done it, and he's done it well. But he still needs to make sure that, how do I put this? He still needs to make sure that they got to make sure they're getting him in a rhythm. Let me put it that way. Because I've complained about this. There's been all or nothing offense. There's been some check down to outlets, but he hasn't been able to get down to them because he is a touchdown to check down guy. That being the case, they're going to have to dial it up for him to be quick rhythm stuff before he goes deep and all that. And they try, but then you get to the problem of the receiver separation. Again, all of this is covered in the article for Last Word on Pro Football. The Chicago Bears are fighting their first losing skid because they have not lost back-to-back games yet this season, but they're also going up against Tom Brady's ire. In other quarterback news, the Miami Dolphins, reportedly are pursuing in the early throes of trading for embattled, and that's putting it lightly, quarterback Deshaun Watson currently of the Houston Texans. Watson has been shut down this season as he deals with 24 lawsuits of sexual misconduct from various massage therapists around the country. What we hear is that the deposition, I believe, won't even happen until next season. So for this story to leak out now, many have said that must mean that the ownership, Stephen Ross, is willing to sign off on it. My perspective on that is if you're going to sign off on it, you must know something. I don't know how you could. There's no action been taken by the league yet at this point in time. However, it is widely believed that once Watson is appearing close to playing or close to getting into game situations, that's when word could come down that he's going to be placed on the commissioner's exempt list. Whatever the case may be, it's a bold move and bolder timing by the Dolphins as they're still trying to figure out what to do with Tua Tagovailoa and are in the midst of maybe having to find a new head coach if this thing keeps going the way it's going. Really, really interesting situation to keep your eyes on because we just don't know, again, what's going to happen with Watson. And to have something like this announced beforehand, even though we did find out that the Texans are willing to come down off of their price, still kind of interesting timing for all of it because we just don't know so much still about this entire ordeal. Another ordeal that just stepped up a notch, Washington football team just had Congress step in and request documents related to their probe that ended up in the resignation of one John Gruden from the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, if you recall, that entire email document that was like damn near 1 million or something like that emails resulted in Gruden's resignation, but also caught up Adam Schefter in referring to former football team executive Bruce Allen as Mr. Editor. Well, that story's kind of died down. Gruden's gone, but now Congress is stepping in, and the thought process behind it is believed to be to get everything out, because the way that this has all come out has been rubbing people the wrong way, because it felt like with all of those emails, knowing that what was the impetus behind this entire probe, for the only thing to come out to be about John Gruden and Adam Schefter is suspect. I am one who is a firm believer in the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. However, I will say it is kind of suspect with all the reports coming out of there to not have anything from there despite such a lengthy investigation. Before we switch gears, you know what we got to do, man. It's time for some picks. And I promise you, at some point, I'm going to compile the record. I got to do it before we get too deep because I'm not going to remember. I might do it on a Bears bye week because then I won't have any other things to have to do. And I can come back to the pods and kind of compile my stats up. But I do like the fact that I'm not aware yet because I can keep with my process and then see how it's going based on what I've been doing and if I need to keep going with that or switch it up to get back on track. So with that being said, let's get to it. Just told you the Browns are already beat the Broncos 17-14. Next up, you got the Panthers at the Giants. Panthers 3-3, Giants 1-5. Give me the Panthers. I know they've been struggling of late, but the Giants are just a dumpster fire. They can surprise you every once in a while, but I'm just not convinced that anything on that team is built to last and is built for good. So with that said, give me the Carolina Panthers in a game that will be in New York. So yeah. Do I like that? Yeah. I have no faith in the Giants. Yeah. Give me the Panthers. We'll keep going. Okay. Jets at the Patriots. Come on, fam. We're not even going to do it. Look, Zach Wilson, get out of New York, fam. You're going to have to get out. You're just going to have to go because you're going to start seeing ghosts. We're going to see that clip. You know what? That'll be our prediction. Before his tenure is up, we will see the Zach Wilson saying that he's seeing a clip of Zach Wilson saying that he's seeing ghosts side by side with Sam Darnold. Because we already got him throwing a pick. Didn't we get him throwing the ball at the back of a Lyman's head? Right? I think that's what we got. We didn't get a butt fumble. We definitely got one. I mean, it was like beamed at the back of his head. So we'll see how that comes out. Give me the Patriots in that game. So far we got Panthers, Patriots. We're going home or away and home. See, I'm not just picking the home team here or the road dog. I'm mixing it up a little bit. So next up, Chiefs at Titans. Man, I want to say give me the Chiefs, but the Titans, we know what they do. They just surprised the Bills and came away with a big victory there. So I would imagine that they're going to have something a little bit for the Kansas City Chiefs as well that won't let them skate as easily as many people might expect. That game was a sick game too, 34-31. Next up, you have the Washington football team at the Green Bay Packers. Washington's defense has not been that great this year, and the offense has been bad as well. Taylor Heineke has really struggled in his extended run, which probably means that they'll be picking a quarterback early in next year's draft. The Packers now 5-1 after their opening week debacle, 38-3, something like that. And their point differential was so bad because of it. It's funny because people talk about, well, they're only a plus this in point differential. Yeah, they got shellacked in week one. you got to take out the minus 35. Like, you might want to remove that one. Whatever. Give me Green Bay. Atlanta at Miami. Give me Atlanta. I think they might be starting to figure some stuff out, and I think the Dolphins are beginning to unravel. They just got beat by Jacksonville in London last week. Cincinnati 4-2 at the 5-1 Baltimore Ravens. Look, I love Joe Burrow, man. I think he's going to have a great future. We're not going against Lamar Jackson on this show. We don't do that here. We are original members of the Lamar Jackson bandwagon. Okay, so we're not jumping off now. I promise you that. Next up, you have the return of returns as Jared Goff returns to LA to take on the Rams, and Matt Stafford welcomes in his former team in the Detroit Lions. If you think for 1 second that I am not taking Matthew Stafford to destroy the Detroit Lions, now there's some speculation that that's a lot of points to cover. It's nearly 2 touchdowns. If it hasn't surpassed that already, I would be surprised if the Rams don't thump. And I mean thump the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff's good for 2 turnovers. You just know that. He'll put up some points and maybe some yards, or maybe some points and some yards. So, yeah. But he's going to turn the ball over. And the Rams are going to capitalize off those turnovers, and it's not going to look good. So, I'm predicting an 0-7 start for Dan Campbell's head coaching tenure. And, yeah, Rams. Philadelphia Eagles 2-4, taking on the 4-2 Las Vegas Raiders, who looked rejuvenated behind interim head coach Rich Bisaccia last week. Give me the Raiders again because I just don't think that the Eagles are there yet either. Nick Sirianni, from what I hear, has not been well received this season. Things just don't seem to be going well, but you know how that can go. Losing hurts. Winning heals a lot of wounds. So, give me the Raiders. Texans at the Cardinals. Texans are 1-5. Cardinals are 6-0. This is a boat race. This is going to be a boat race, okay? Which, by the way, is going to be the title of Narco Ranking for Soaring Down South. We'll get to that in a second. The Texans, man, Tyrod Taylor, I believe, is not back yet. So will be Davis Mills, but they just are not even in the same class as the Arizona Cardinals, who have J.J. Watt, Houston Texans legend, and he basically said that it's kind of sad to say that the organization is in, especially how fans have had to be disappointed with this 1-5 start. About to be 1-6 though, thanks to Mr. Watt. So that is what it is. Tis what tis. Then you have the Bears. Traveling to Tampa Bay, 5-1 Buccaneers, hosting the 3-3 Bears. As with many of these so far, this isn't that hard. I'm going to pick the Buccaneers and what I think will be a route. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Bears can steal one away and make them forget what down it is again, but I do not think that that's going to be the case. Bears are going to have a tough time bouncing back from a tough loss last week, and they could go from being above 500 to right back below. And it's not going to get much easier going forward until Thanksgiving when they face the Detroit Lions. Yuck. Give me the Bucks. Indianapolis Colts 2-4 taking on the 2-3 San Francisco 49ers. This game is pretty much a toss-up because both of these teams are really solid defensively, really sketchy at quarterback, and really well coached. So I'll give the edge to the Niners here because they're at home, because I really don't have any other reason. I guess you could say Carson Wentz is better than the quarterback situation right now in San Fran, as Trey Lance has looked really raw and Jimmy G is Jimmy G. So scratch that reverse and give me the Colts. That stinks, but we'll do it. We'll go with the Colts. I don't like it. We'll go with the Colts on the road. Oh, man, I don't like that at all. I'm going to do it, though. Yeah, we're going to stick with the Colts, Colts on the road at San Francisco. And then Monday Night Football, New Orleans Saints taking on the Seattle Seahawks. This game seems so funny because it's the Saints and the Seahawks, but there's no Russell Wilson and no Drew Brees. It'll be Jameis Winston versus Geno Smith. I don't know why that's so funny to me, but it's hilarious. I think that's one of the funniest things ever. So, yeah, those are my picks. We'll have to come back to it. Give me I didn't pick that one, did I? Nope. Give me the Saints. Their defense is better. Jameis is just as good, at least, as Geno Smith, if not better, and I just am picking them. So, yeah, we're going with that. Keeping it simple, right? Keep it simple, stupid kiss. That's the rules. Them's the rules. That's what you got to do. All right, switching gears. I always get it backwards. So, the NBA has kicked off. Just about every team has played a game. We have a couple going on right now. We still have, I believe, I know for a fact we still have the Warriors and the Clippers going on. I think there's one more game as well going on. But two of my teams My two teams have already played in the Atlanta Hawks and the Chicago Bulls. Both got off to 1-0 starts. The Bulls, close game, 94-88 or 86 against the Detroit Pistons. Meanwhile, the Atlanta Hawks blew the doors off of the Dallas Mavericks on the road, by the way. Gotta love that. Both teams got road wins. Really happy to see that. Around the league elsewhere, there was some conversation about, what it is in LA. It's been a conversation for much of the offseason, but it was really bad because Russell Westbrook did not have the best game in his debut. He had 8 points. I'm pulling up his numbers right now. But it was not a good game. And again, people talked about this coming into the season is how was their fit going to be? Because you had a ball dominant player in LeBron, a guy who's going to need his touches in Anthony Davis. And then you want to try to add Russ into that. And of course, we all know Russ isn't always the easiest guy to play with because he is rather ball dominant. He's never played off the ball like this. And what I found interesting about the discussion, though, was that people said that it didn't work with James Harden. Now, they didn't get the success that they wanted, but to say that it didn't work because of Russ, I think is a little bit disingenuous because you know what Russ is. And I think that we keep finding teams trying to put these other expectations of what he's supposed to come in and do. And then when he doesn't do that, then you get guys who are like, oh, man, Russ is not good. He didn't do this thing. No, but he does what he does really, really well. And I think when you take that into consideration, it makes it a little bit easier to digest. And now also, he's been prone to slow starts before picking up. He did it with Washington last year. So I'm definitely not worried about that. But he did finish this game. 8 points. 4 of 13 from the floor, 0 of 4 from 3. I would like to see him cut down those threes to 2 a game. Do the Giannis method. Giannis ain't taking threes like that no more. Drive. Play center since AD wants to play power forward anyway, right? Put him at the 5, but let him play on the perimeter and let Russ play center. That's the simplest way I can think about it because you got to have them on the floor together. You can't have them come. I heard somebody suggest come off of the bench as a 6th man. You crazy? You got to be crazy to do that. So I'm not worried about Russ right now. Not worried about the Lakers right now. It'll all come together. I just think it's funny that people are kind of talking about it so fast. It's week 1. That's why I'm not really. I wrote about both how the strengths and weaknesses showed in the opener for the Bulls. Pimping ain't easy. And I'm going to be writing 2 studs and 1 dud about DeAndre Hunter locking up Luka Doncic and Cam Reddish's big night. But I think I might switch him out for Trae Young. I'm not even sure yet there was such a good night for the Hawks. But you still got to remember it's just 1 week. 1 game. Not even 1 week. 1 game. It's hard. It's tough, man. Milwaukee bullied the Brooklyn Nets in the opener. That's part of it, right? They got blown out in this game, did Brooklyn. After Kevin Durant was talking about how close he was to sending them home with his big-ass feet last year. Remember that? He was talking about it. I think they remembered, 127-104. And truth be told, Brooklyn needs Kyrie a lot more than they want to admit. And maybe not necessarily Kyrie, but they need another person. They need that guy. And honestly, I still am of the belief that Ben Simmons for Kyrie trade works for everybody. I'm probably on the outskirts of that, but I'm firmly in that camp and will sit on that hill because I really think that it solves the Nets transition and kind of, I don't say playmaking, but continuity issue. There seems to be some kind of disjointedness in their offense, and I think Ben would solve that because you have 2 terrific scorers in Harden and Durant. And Irving could be that scorer, that unconscious bucket getter that Embiid seems to want alongside him, which I don't blame him for. Make it happen. I don't care what other, considerations you guys have to make for it. Make that happen because that works out seriously for everybody involved. Just do it. Just for me, please. I'm just asking. But the point is, Milwaukee also got thumped, by the way, the following night by the Miami Heat, who beat them by like more than a dub. So, again, 1 game at a time. Ja Morant is different. Real quick, Ja Morant love because I'm a big fan of the kid's game. And he came out and gave us some highlight dunks. And I just want to take this moment to say that Ja Morant's the guy who, I'm not Kobe, right? I'm not Kobe. But I do want to introduce you to Ja Morant. Get your team into the playoffs again, and take them to that next level. Because I think he has it. There's not a lot of players that I would say have it. But I think Ja has it. Started off his season with 37 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. and only 2 turnovers with 2 blocks. He can do some of everything. He needs to get a little bit bigger, learn how to land a little bit better off those jams. But I'm so impressed by what he does, and I'm so encouraged to see what he's going to do. That the only challenge I have for him is to get that team into the postseason and make some noise. I do wonder if they're built properly for that, but I think they can be. And so I just want to see that for Ja and for the Grizzlies. So, before I barely any further, you did have that clip there, the Reggie Miller clip, and I just want to play that entire because Reggie Miller found out about his addition to the NBA 75th anniversary team, which they've been rolling out pretty clunkily. That's been the biggest complaint, that there's been a lot of disjointedness about it. There's not sure if it's rankings or if it's just randomness. I think it's just randomness, and it's been clunky. Like, put it in order, put some kind of number rankings, put some kind of methodology to it that people can follow. Otherwise, you're just releasing names. And a lot of people are complaining because the majority of the top 50 is just on the list and then just added 25 guys. So they could have just added the 25 guys in retrospect. Whatever. I don't care. This moment was really cool as Pacers legend and Hall of Famer Reggie Miller found out that he was inducted into, or that he was a member of the NBA 75th All-Anniversary team.
Reggie Miller, congratulations.
Wait,
Reggie, you're on
what are you
there,
guys
man.
talking about?
You're on the list.
You're on the list,
You're on
brother.
the list, man.
Whoa! Seriously, okay. Wow.
And there you see, look, that's a great he was speechless. Reggie is not a guy who's often speechless, and he seemed to be pretty speechless right there. There's been some complaints. Look, you never get one of these and not have some complaints. Klay Thompson's not happy to not have made it. I've seen complaints that Kyrie should be on the list. I don't know about all that, but I've seen it. And there's one more that I think that I agree with, but it's not on there. But the point is, here's my thing about these. When you get this far, 75, when you get past 10 to me, I think you're being subjective and that you're kind of, there's no way to compare your list to somebody else and say mine's better than your list for the most part. But when you get to 75, whoever you got, I'm good with, fam. I'm sure you got the majority of guys that I would have put on there. You might have missed one or two, but I'm not gonna beef with you. That to me, like, that to me is just 75. How are we gonna get mad that somebody didn't put you on top? I get it. You might say, man, 75, I should be on this. A lot of people. It's not 75. It's a lot of years. It's a lot of players. 75. You want me to get up in arms about somebody's 75 player list being off kilter? Again, man, I'll read 10. We good past 10? We good, my friend. That's just what it is for me, man. I'm not gonna ever get worked up about your list. Look, you bring me your top 20, not gonna sweat it. Top 25, definitely not gonna sweat it. Your top 15, I might glance, not gonna sweat it. Top 10, we could talk. Let's talk top 10s. Let's really talk top 5s. But 75, come on, fam. I can't be mad about that list. That's too many people. It's too many people. And I'll leave you with this. Daryl Morey's comments on Ben Simmons' situation. Ben Simmons has been returning. I told you he just come back so he wouldn't get fined. Man came back, practiced with sweatpants on, a cell phone in his pocket, got thrown out of practice, right? Doc asked him to participate in a drill. He wouldn't do it. Says that now he's not mentally ready. Says his back is stiff and is going to be sitting out for an indeterminate amount of time. I told you. I'm not the only one, but I definitely told you. So now what, Daryl Morey? What are you going to do now? Per him, dig in, folks. Daryl Morey said he's ready to battle this out for years. This could take up to 4 years. Fam, let me tell you something. I don't know if he realizes this, and this is probably why it didn't work out in Houston. But playing the strong man on a guy in the NBA who doesn't want to be there isn't going to help you. I don't care how tough you think it makes you look in negotiations. You're going to look like a dictator in future negotiations with other players because not everybody's going to want to stay. You're going to have another player who's going to want to be traded. And eventually guys are going to have to sign. They're going to think, man, if I eventually don't want to be here anymore and I'm trying to go out, this dude's going to drag me through all of this stuff. He's going to be talking all crazy. He's going to be writing me up fines and stuff, which is within his right. But when you're public like this, and talk about digging in for 4 years. I told you, Sixers need to shut up. They talking too much. If they want to fix it, shut up. Stop talking to the media about it because you're not saying the right stuff. And yet here we are. We'll see what happens with it, but man, it doesn't sound like it's going to be resolved anytime soon. That's going to do it for this episode. 000. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Joshy Buck. Hit the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, website, clockersports.com. Wait, that's not right. Yes, it is. Email address, clockersports@gmail.com. And, of course, follow the show on Facebook and Twitter at 30spod. That's at the number 30spod. And, of course, read the stuff. PimpingItEasy.com just wrote about the Chicago Bulls displaying their strengths and weaknesses in their opener. Gonna write about if they can survive having Pat Williams and Lonzo Ball be sometimes aggressive going forward for tomorrow. SoaringDownSouth.com, gonna write about how DeAndre Hunter locked up Luka Doncic, how Cam Reddish gave you the best of both worlds on his debut, and how Trae Young is a man on fire when he wants to be. That's gonna come out tomorrow as well. And of course, Last One in Pro Football, where I wrote about Tom Brady and the Buccaneers hosting the Bears, and Brady not forgetting that he forgot last time these two teams faced off. Until the very next time, man, I think you already know it is. That's the sound of the horns. Your boy is gone.